Bookies New and Used Books is a supporter of WXAV 88.3 FM and WXAV.com. Located at 10324 Southwestern Avenue in Chicago, Bookies offers a selection of new and used books with orders available for books not currently in stock. For more information, visit their website at bookiesbookstores.com.
Support for WXAV 88.3 is being provided by Northwest Community Credit Union, located on campus inside the Graham School of Management. The credit union provides its members with a variety of financial products and services to help them achieve their financial goals. Members can access services and bank on NWCCU's mobile app. For more information, visit their website at nwccu.com or call them at 1-800-2BELONG.
This is a WXAV 773 Sounds podcast, introducing you to the best local bands in the Chicagoland area.
Hi, this is Peter Kreten from 773 Sounds here on WXAV 88.3 FM Chicago, your escape from ordinary radio. And I'm really excited because we have one of the most exciting jazz musicians, not only just for the Chicagoland area, but for the entire country. We have the up-and-coming musician, Alyssa Allgood. Alyssa, how are you today?
I'm doing really great. Thank you so much for having me and for that beautiful introduction. It's wonderful to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you. I always like to start my interviews by going back to the beginning. Can you tell me a little bit about how you first discovered music, but also specifically how you first discovered jazz music?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I am from the suburbs of Chicago. I grew up in Westmont, Illinois, and I was really fortunate to have a supportive family, so I was involved with music from a very young age. Started singing with the jazz band when I was in 6th grade, and I just really fell in love with it. I loved getting to, just sing with other people and create this beautiful music in the moment. And around that time, I also started going to a vocal jazz summer camp that was held at North Central College in Naperville, which is actually where I ended up doing my undergrad degree. So I've been really involved with it from an early age, and grateful for a lot of mentors and opportunities kind of throughout my life.
Well, not only that, you got the great College of DuPage, WDCB, the jazz radio station out there.
Of course.
So jazz has a special place in my heart because my dad is a jazz guitarist. So growing up, I just remember him sitting on the couch playing the guitar and things like that. You don't hear a lot of people talking about jazz today, which is really unfortunate because it's America's music and everything. So how have you, as a jazz musician, experienced it when you've gone out and you've played at clubs and everything, people's reaction? And do you think there's almost like a little bit of a renaissance happening with the genre? Because I work in higher education, and it's amazing because I have people going to me now being like, have you ever heard of Miles Davis? Have you ever heard of Coltrane? Have you ever heard, of Joe Pass? And it's like, yes, I have.
That's cool. Well, they're finally getting hip, so that's cool. Good for them, But yeah, it's just interesting because I feel like that's certainly true, right? Obviously, jazz used to be the popular music, 100 years ago, and it's certainly not. But I also don't think it's dead, right? I think which is not what you're saying, but I think there are some people who think, jazz is this dying art form. But you go to clubs, and I just had a performance last night. I have a residency at Winter's Jazz Club in the city, and we had 2 really full sets on a cold Sunday night. So I think that there is still a lot of people who like the music. And what I found is oftentimes maybe somebody comes in and they're just looking for kind of a night out or an experience. Maybe they're not like diehard jazz fans. So I think it's important for us as jazz musicians to be really thoughtful about how can we just make this music accessible and make it, I don't want to say user-friendly, but yeah, sort of user-friendly, make it an experience that people can really enjoy it. So people want to come back and then they want to go through the catalog and learn about John Coltrane and Miles Davis and all the greats before us.
Yeah, no, that's fabulous. So who are some of your musical heroes when you're throwing a record on the turntable? Who are you going to listen to?
Yeah, I have a couple. One of my very favorites is actually a Chicagoan, the great Dinah Washington. She's somebody who I've listened to quite a lot. She could sing anything, but she just had such a beautiful, like soulful voice and had a lot of grit in her sound. And I just really, try to encapsulate that sometimes when I'm singing, but I just really appreciate that kind of style. I also really love Betty Carter. She's somebody who, again, I think of somebody as a very like fierce vocalist and somebody who was really like a musician first whose instrument was voice versus being kind of a separate thing. So I really, gravitate towards that kind of singing as well. Of course, Ella, the greatest of all time. I think it's very easy to say that. I've listened to her, and what I love about Ella is she had a lot of different parts of her career and styles within what she did. And I think there's so much to learn from sort of how her career spanned so long and sort of how her sound changed and evolved in that time. Carmen McRae is another one of my favorite singers. I could just talk for hours and hours about all them, but I have so many singers who I think have just really inspired my understanding of, how to, as I was mentioning before, how to connect with an audience, how to express a lyric, how to make somebody feel something, and then how to also, again, be a musician first when you're doing that, which I think is really important and a big part of my identity as a vocalist.
You said something earlier that really piqued my interest in everything, and that was using your voice as an instrument. And listening to you, I think that's kind of your approach with how you sing and everything. As a performer, as a singer, what's that like? How do you approach when you're at that microphone and you're engaging with your audience and everything, and you are using your voice as an instrument?
Well, I think for me, it's really important because, jazz really is an instrumental art form. If you think about like the sort of the biggest innovators and sort of where the music originally comes from. So for me, like my approach is like, I want to just be part of that. So the way that I've like really studied the music and the way I continue to study is feeling like when I'm on the bandstand that I'm able to really like help push the music forward, just as if I was like an alto saxophonist or just as if I was the drummer, right? So being able to interact with the other musicians on the stage, being able to, as I mentioned, sort of pushing things forward, whether that's taking a scat solo or changing the phrasing, things like that, changing the timbre of my voice, all those things. I think some of it is conscious choices, but a lot of it is just sort of is improvised. But it is through a lot of the study and a lot of the learning. And I think that audiences are really drawn to that too, because it gives them something that they're also leaning into, sort of feeling or sort of seeing, okay, how's the song going to develop? Where's the interaction? And giving them those kind of little moments as well.
Yeah, and it is all about that feeling. I mean, jazz, you're so in the moment with the band and the audience and things like that. Do you have any moments while you're up on stage and you're just like, wow, like here I am, I'm performing, I'm in this moment. And if you have those moments, like what's that like? Does it like center you? Does it give you like energy to really like put your heart and soul into it? What do you experience with that?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And, I'm really fortunate to say that I do have that feeling, I would say like quite often, and I have it in different ways. I've been writing a lot more of my own original music. And so that's a really different experience of like working with my regular band and the way that we've like been able to develop the music together and feeling like in the moment where, it really goes in these beautiful places and they're pushing me and I'm pushing them. And I definitely am like, wow, that's just like really special. And then I also have moments where, as I mentioned, I had a performance last night, and that was with a band I'd actually never worked with that exact group of people before, but it was amazing. We did a bossa nova night, and so we had some a Brazilian bass player and some other musicians who play a lot in that style, and they were just incredible. And I would just had moments where I was like, wow, this is just so great, and like just the energy of it. So I definitely feel like for me that grounds me, and it just also makes me feel very grateful to be able to have those kind of opportunities and to have those quite often as well. Lots of great musicians here in Chicago.
Yeah, we're really spoiled in that regard. Not that I'm complaining or anything. Now, you mentioned that you're beginning to write your own compositions and everything. How has that approach been for you so far?
It's been great. It's for me, it was something I started to do. I was actually went back to school and did my master's a couple of years ago, and that was something I like wanted to sort of pursue while I was there. And so the last album that I had come out before this new one was released in April 2024. I had 10 original songs on there, and that was really like my first of that amount of original music. And so for me, that was really great and very, very empowering to just sort of find a different facet of my musicianship, as well as to really think about like like my own voice as a performer and as a person, but to really think about like, okay, what are types of songs that I want to be singing or messages I want to be singing? And so that's been just like very empowering. And then the new EP has 3 originals on there. And then I'm actually have a whole new album that I'm getting ready to record that's all originals as well. So I'm really kind of like stepping into that. And the process has been both empowering and sometimes super overwhelming. I think sometimes if you think about, oh, you know, writing music or creating art, it's just like all magic. Like it just comes from nowhere. Sometimes that's true, but most of it is just editing again. It's not actually that glamorous.
No, it's a lot of sitting at a computer clicking buttons. Now you mentioned you have a brand new EP coming out, and in fact, it's coming out in the next few days.
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the EP is called Leap, and that is about this idea of taking risks and really being thoughtful about the ways that we can support ourselves in those moments to try something new, but also to honor that that can be challenging, you know, the kind of moments before we're ready to sort of make that change or take that leap. The title comes from the first song on the EP is called In the Sea, and that song really is sort of an anthem about, you know, just like finally putting yourself in that place where you belong. And that's an idea for me that it sort of circles back very often in my experience as an independent artist. So much, I would say that probably every day there's some amount of like risk taking when you're in the arts, whether that's, you know, sending that booking email or writing this song or posting this thing online. A lot of that is all based in putting yourself out there in different ways. And I just think I wanted to, you know, share a recording that was sort of about that. It's also something that I'm releasing on my own. And so I've done a lot of work in the last year to really have a better understanding of a little bit more about kind of the business side of things and sort of taking that entrepreneurial leap for myself as well. And I hope that audiences feel inspired to take a leap or a small step or something in their own life as well.
That's wonderful. Now, where can people go to find that EP?
Yeah, so it'll be on Bandcamp, so you can buy it directly from there, and it'll also be on all of the streaming platforms. I'm not planning to press physical CDs, so at this point it's just going to be a digital release only. So you can stream it or you can get it on Bandcamp.
Okay, that's really good to know. I'm here with Alyssa Allgood here on 773 Sounds. Now, Alyssa, if people want to give you a follow on your social media accounts, where can they go and where can they find you?
That is such a great question. Thank you. So I'm most active on Instagram. My handle is Allgood Jazz. I was blessed with a really good stage name. That's my real last name, so I just throw it into everything. So I'm Allgood Jazz on Instagram. TikTok, I think I'm just Alyssa Allgood. I should probably just triple check that really quick. But I'm on TikTok as well, Facebook. I'm on all the things. You can find me at Alyssa Allgood.
Fantastic. You mentioned something earlier with your approach to songwriting that's really piqued my interest. And I'm kind of curious, when you're going and you're writing a song, what attracts you first? Do you go more with melody or do you kind of go a little bit more with lyrics?
That's such a great question. And I think it's always a little bit different. But to be honest, my experience has been mostly lyric driven. I have found that I really have to kind of have a story or a point of view in order to write. To like get something out. I could write, you know, as an exercise, 8 bars or something like that. But I think for me to like really get a song together, I need to have a reason for it. So I think like lyrically, that really drives me. I do a lot of my writing at the piano. I play piano as well. So I often find that as I'm working through the lyric, I'm kind of connecting that immediately with, okay, what is the amount of syllables? What melody notes could those maybe connect with? And then I'm kind of immediately putting it into the harmony. So once I kind of get going, I'm sort of doing all of them together. But lyric definitely to me, has been most important so far in my writing process.
And something else that's really, really cool that you do is you're not only a musician, but you're a music educator and you work with, you know, college students and you're really getting them into jazz and everything. What has that experience been like working with young people, discovering not only their talent, but also this beautiful genre of music and this beautiful way to express themselves?
Yeah, I think you just nailed it on the head, really just expressed it so beautifully, because I do think that like this music and the way that I teach is so much about, of course, we want to like learn about the music, but it's so much about like learning about ourselves through the music. And especially as vocalist, I think singing is an incredibly vulnerable experience because your instrument is your person. And so there's not anything to hide behind, right? So a lot of times I'm really also helping my students just develop confidence in standing on their own 2 feet, standing in front of people, sharing their voice. And so for me, it's been incredibly gratifying to be able to support people's journey through that, to help them find a love of this music, to help them find a little bit more confidence with their own voice and experience. And I've teach in a lot of different capacities. Right now I teach part-time at Loyola University here in Chicago. And as we were talking about earlier about, maybe jazz isn't as popular. When I started last year, I teach private lessons. I had 5 students in my studio, and going into next semester, I have 14 students who are going to be taking jazz lessons. So I think people really do actually love this music, right? And it's just about giving them opportunities to find it and to find that connection. So that's been really exciting. But I also teach, I do like clinic work while I'll go and work with vocal jazz choirs, doing master classes on songwriting or improvisation, all kinds of things. And I really love it. I think it's so important. Always, but I think especially with jazz is a very long tradition of mentorship, and you can see that really throughout history. And so I really feel like this is a way for me to also, give back to the music and help the music sustain for many, many more years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you mentioned that mentorship factor. How have your mentors influenced you then and how you approach the music?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think I've had a lot of mentors who, I think push me to dig a little bit deeper into finding my own sound, make suggestions for different kinds of recordings to check out. Also just lead by example by being incredible musicians, being, diverse musicians, versatile, those kind of things. And as I mentioned, I have another recording that I'm working on. I actually got a grant through Chamber Music America to do some coaching sessions. So I've been working with a wonderful singer, Nicole Zaritis, and she's been doing like coaching sessions with my group. And so that's been really amazing to have that kind of really direct like mentorship as well. And I found that so often people are very open to supporting each other because that's really what this music is about. I think it's really based in community as well.
I completely agree with you. I got a couple more questions for you. You mentioned earlier too, the life of an independent musician and everything, and it's really a hustle. You gotta market yourself at all times. From your perspective, how has the advent of kind of like social media with like kind of Spotify, YouTube, how's that kind of helped you, or and how's that kind of like hurt a little bit? And the reason why I throw hurt in there, not to be negative or anything, but I find this interesting phenomenon when I work with students or work with young people is they get so glued to the phone or so glued to Spotify and what Spotify recommends that first step into something that they don't know is the scariest step for them to take.
Sure.
And, going to a young person who is very used to just pop music, which there's nothing wrong with pop music. Jazz is very, very different from pop music. So how have you been able as that independent musician to maybe use your platform as a tool to get them to take that first but scary step?
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I don't know that I've really ever thought about it in that way, but you're so right that like the Spotify of it all, the algorithm is it's sort of just recommending these things for you. So that takes away the kind of curiosity factor that I think is really important for just like finding something that you like that's not just handed to you, right? So that's really interesting. But I have found, and to be honest, going back to the new EP that I have coming out, one of my sort of inspirations for it was, again, this sort of like entrepreneurial leap and doing more research and kind of realizing that it is important to be releasing music more often and having like more content to share for the exact thing that we're talking about. So to me, this has been a little bit of an experiment, honestly, of, okay, if I'm releasing, singles more often and paying for ads and doing those kind of things, is that going to reach different people and more people? And so far it's been going pretty well. I think, but the negative side of that is that there is a pressure and an expectation to be releasing music like I would say pretty much all the time. If you think about, I think like some of the artists who on the next level from where I'm at, like they're releasing music, once a month or a couple EPs a year, those kind of things. And that gets expensive and all those things too. So I think that there's the benefit is that you can certainly like maybe reach more people. Then also the negative side of it is that there is just it's very saturated, right? Because it is very easy to release music and to do those things. So to find a way to sort of cut through the noise, I think I'm still sort of figuring that out. So I'll report back after this is released and all that kind of stuff. But a double-edged sword, but I also think it's part of our job as musicians and people who are in the field to adapt and to try and be willing to, take the leap, even if it's not something that we're maybe wanted to do or expecting to do in terms of the online sort of streaming thing.
I'm here with Alyssa Allgood. Again, you can check her out on Instagram and on Bandcamp. Allgood Jazz on Instagram, correct?
Yes, that's right.
And then also you can just search Alyssa Allgood on Bandcamp, and you can check out, she had a great album that came out in 2024 called From Here. And the new EP is coming out in a few days. It's called Leap. So be sure to go and check that out. Alyssa, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this WXAV 773 Sounds podcast. For more information on 773 Sounds, please visit our website, wxav.com.